Welcome to my place where we focus on fundamentals for our directional bias and technicals for our entries. I know it's been a while since last I posted, and I promise you I'm back fully. So let's just dive in. The Dixie, yes, Dixie are strong. They're already pricing in some two hikes this year. I think 20 something percent hike and all that. But just take a look at the technical aspects. We have this high. This is a structure. This was our previous high. This is the low. It's created this high. So now technically we are looking for another high, and this is the internal of this leg. So this is what we are looking at daily. That's a weekly demand. So if that is the case, then we can call this zone the supply zone that we can short into this point and technically look at price going higher, because this is the internal of the range. This is still the internal. But now, because of this distance, I can start calling this an external. And for that reason, this might be liquidity and a zone is somewhere here. So this is what I'll be looking out for Dixie. And we can look to the futures because they are the best in terms of identifying where we are expecting Dixie change. Looking at it from the beginning of the Aussie, we're looking at Aussie strength. Technically, we are at a monthly demand. In this monthly demand, we have to look at it from our D1 time frame. Okay, so with our zone, this is the zone we have. We identify price is already giving us a high, a low. This is a higher high, and this is a low that we expect price to continue higher, right? But we work with the highest probability area, which is this range, and we expect price to get into this zone, maybe technically continue this way or this. So we know we now look for longs. We're looking at longs for the AU, and looking at this, we had this break, we had this zone. So this was a good longs for me last week, and if you look at this, this is our high, this is our low. I wouldn't like to long here, so but if you see price come deeper to grab this as liquidity, fine, you can take the position because that will be longs for the EU futures is quite interesting. So this is the analysis I'm looking for, because this is an entire internal range. Look at it from the 4 hours. So we can see along here, we would like to take this to at least this point, and then maybe short from there because the euro is actually weak. And then I'm looking at the NZD. Looking at this, it's still equivalently the same thing as the EU. That's the range. So we are looking at this range to get into that supply. And looking at the Swiss, oh, this was actually interesting. So it's the same thing, still dollar weakness, because you can see this is this range, this is the high. Now this is an internal of this. So we expect price to continue higher, and I think if price should come lower, then I would love to the other zone. So that is just what we have for the dollar strength. The Japan 225 index. This is what I'm looking at, and if you can see, there's been a very clean structural movement on this. So we have our high, we have our high, clean structure, and price is reacting from nowhere. So I expect a short from there to this zone, and maybe potentially we might start looking for longs. And US 30 is same thing. Um, sorry, looking at this, if this is going to be a break, okay, so we can take that from there because this is the high, this is the low, and then this is the long external high. This is the internal structure, but then this is the internal of this particular leg, so we expect price to pull back at some point, and if it comes lower, then we will look at price coming this way before we can long. That's for the US. For the NAS 100, technically on the weekly, I'm looking at this as a high, looking at this as a low, just as we looked at this as a high and a low. We expect price to pull to the downside. Yes, on the daily, we had this breakout structure. The weekly, we had this supply holding. Price came, stopped here. So I'm looking at it as though this is structural around point A, B, and then this is our lower low. So we're expecting price to continue this way. Technically, we are still bearish because if you look at this on your 1 hour time frame, this was this, and then we had this guy broke, grabbed liquidity, came to the downside, so we expect a good shot from here. So this is what I'll be looking out for the US 100. The German index looks okay, but we can see this was our high, this was the low, this is the high that just got broken currently. So, okay, we now have a new low, so we expect continuation. And if you look at this from your daily time frame, this is a high, this is a high, and we've been taking that. So we just have a break here, and we expect that at some point, if there is a pullback, this is supposed to hold. But it's the first break of both internal and external, and I expect price to continue higher and higher. That is for German 40. So that's all I have for the indices. You have silver. Let me clear it a bit, give you the updates. Silver on the 3 month chart. So silver is supposed to continue lower because we have this high, we have this low, we have this high, and we expect a low. And a zone is somewhere here as per this internal this range entirely. And then for that reason, we go to monthly to identify a supply. The supply we have is somewhere here, and there is a demand here to work with at least. And for that reason, going to the weekly to identify if there is a technical zone we can work with. What we have is that this is the low, this is the high, and we already had this as a low also. So now this is the new break of this point. So we expect the continuation to the downside before we see a deeper pullback, and if price is supposed to go lower, fine. And for that, we look at the weekly, sorry, the daily, and price is not yet at our zone. So we look at it from this angle. We have a internal structure, so we expect price to bounce off here, and then we short for silver. Looking at oil, yes, I know you guys looking for. Yeah, I know a lot of you be looking at gold. Gold is similarly the same thing, and gold was quite interesting last week for me. So you can see that there was a break here. Yes, to the downside, and then this is the break to the upside, and I was looking for a pullback, so there was a good long opportunity here on the 1 hour time frame. Taking care of all these movements. So I'm expecting gold to move higher at this point, and then we look for short opportunity. But this zone is on probability, so I'll be using confirmation. So as you can see, NZD, let's take a look at this, is bearish. Previous month, bearish. Previous week is the doji. So technically, where is my structure? This was a low, and now this is a high. So I'm looking at this as a range, and then we just had this break here. So if that is a break, this is an internal range of this. So I expect NZD Swiss to go higher to this point, and then maybe we might see short. And for that reason, you can use your 4 hours. I will assume that this is a zone that has been mitigated. Now you can look for your 15 minutes, 1 hour time frame structural point to take the position on this. And we also have the GBP NZD. Why? Because I'm looking at NZD strength at some point. Yes, the GU, this is, if you're looking at it, this is our high, this is our low area, this is our high. So we anticipate this to be our low to continue higher, right? We just had this break of this points, and for that reason, I expect price to pull back to this zone somewhere because this is the high. And if you look at the internal of that zone, it's not really making any sense because this is the internal just here, and price just broke to that high, and this was the first internal break. A lot of people looked at this as a lower low, so they were looking to short from here, which the market grabbed liquidity or wick them out, anyhow you want to look at it, and then this is our low. My anticipation is that we should have this break, pull back, then we can short. So this is a high probability for me. And we have GJ also on my watch list. Why? Because GJ technically on the monthly time frame, looking at this, this is our high and this is our low. So this is a bullish leg entirely on the monthly. It means on the weekly we'll be seeing structure. And this is a weekly high, this is a low. So I'm anticipating this to go higher. Going to the daily time frame, it's very clear that yes, price did this, broke structure to the downside, held, broke another structure to the downside, now it broke structure to the upside. Technically, we are now bullish, very clean. So if I see pullback here, I'll long, or if I see a break here, I'll look for longs, but being careful that this is a bullish leg on its own to create to go to at least 30 on the GJ. Clean G card is actually clean for me due to card weakness. So it's clear a little bit. Looking at it on the monthly, so we are bullish and we expect price to take out this high or just within that point take out this other point here. Previous monthly candle was bullish. We're looking at it, and we have this as a high. And this is just the moment it broke. This is our low. Yes, there was a point here, a break, so you had a short here, and the short did not last. Now price went higher. So now this is the bullish leg entirely. How do we manage this? Looking at it from the daily, you would see that this is a high on its own, this is a low on its own, and then this has internal high, low, high, low, high, low. So this is a high. We expect a low to continue to the upside. It's very simple, but it is now very technical because this is the main zone that broke the high, but then this is a D1 rally base rally just there. So those are the zones you look out for to take a longs. The GA shots is quite interesting because if we look at this, technically we are bearish. This is low, this is a high, this is a low, and we have been having this movement to the upside. So we expect a break to the downside from here, and I'm waiting for the 4 hours break. I'm waiting for this 4 hours break here, and then I would like to take shots to this other area. That is what I have against the pound. the Euro card that makes sense. So why is the Euro card making a whole lot of sense for me is because if you look at this on the weekly, if we consider this our high, consider this the low, all this is internal and this is a high, this is a low, and we're looking for a high. Price reacted in the supply zone. At first, now we have this range. Why do we call that a range? Because this is our high, this is our low. And price just reacted at the very first demand zone. This broke that high. So this is a bullish leg internal of this for that beauty of ours. And what we say is that this is the high, this is the low. This just broke this point, and this is a zone. If price pulls back here, we long it to the high. Very clear. That is my cardian, which is not also too clear. But what I'm impressed here is this just broke structure to the upside, but then broke structure to the downside. And then we have a demand below. So if I could see a short from a pullback in, I would like to short before we can start seeing longs. Why? Also is because if I consider this a high, then this is a low. I expect price to hold. Or if you consider this a high also that got broken and then this is a break of structure, then we expect a pullback of some sorts, which all this is liquidity, and price should go higher. So it's now telling me I should be looking for longs at some point. BTC, which is quite interesting. This is the low, this is the high, this is our low, and we had the breakout structure here. Expecting price to go higher here, and then we can look for short opportunities for BTC. And finally, we have the Aussie card. It was a good shot. Yes, it has been ranging for weeks now. I saw this breakout structure here, took these longs. Now, this is another break. If there's a pullback, you take the longs. Quite simple. And that is all we have for the week.